everybody, David Rodriguez here, and in today's video on Muscle Monday, the gainer. So we're going to be talking about the agonists, antagonists, and the synergists of the gainers. So this isn't really going to be a tutorial. This is kind of be more looking at like the biomechanics, what muscles are being used, and perhaps like what kind of exercises would be beneficial for improving this gainer. Because there's already been so many tutorials, there's not really a need for me to rehash this. So without further ado, so quickly looking at like the joints of our body and how they should look whenever we're doing a gainer, or this can also apply for core, but I'm mostly looking at gainers. So if you've watched any Kojo's Trick Lab video, he always harps and always specifies the knee bend. The knee bend is like a very big thing because when we're doing a gainer, we want like a nice joint stacking. So we want chest over hips, over knees, over ankles. Now that doesn't mean we're going to be sending completely straight up 90 degrees. That's not really what he means. If anything, we'll be here, straight up and down, and we'll be slightly cocked back. That's the slight angle is going to actually help us get the flip that we need. But as long as everything kind of stays in this nice straight line and this nice stacking motion, we'll be good to go. It gives us enough time to swing our leg through, and it's going to let us really have a nice big strong eagle. Now, when we talk about what is not that great, the biggest problem typically ends up being, right, there's too much knee bend. Now, the reason why that's a problem is because we're going to have to waste all this time to try and extend our leg from being bent to being straight. And when we're controlling our flip, we don't want the flip to be controlled from the knee, because if we're bending and we're swinging through and we try to extend here, we're just going to end up falling backwards on our head or on our back. It's not going to feel good. It's going to be harder for us to swing our leg. We're going to have to wait for this leg to straighten out, and then, even then, we can probably still scrape our foot against the ground. So this isn't why. So we're not looking to rely on the knees. So when we talk about like why we want to have this kind of almost like straight up and down with a slight angle to our gainer, is because we are trying to put more emphasis on these muscles. So these are going to be your agonists, your gastrocnemius, which is your calf. It's a double-headed muscle that inserts up into your knee. So this is looking at your knee from behind, right? So behind, posterior view. So so the main calf muscle that you see, that kind of like when trickers, you know, they trick to one side because that one muscle is super defined and then their other calf muscle isn't super defined. That's what that is. This is their gastrocnemius. Now, connected to the gastrocnemius is your Achilles tendon, right? So this thingy, that it connects to right here. And then underneath, running up underneath all that, is your soleus. So we want most of the tension and most of the effort and push coming from this muscle right here that is behind your knee, connecting into your ankle, so on and so forth. As opposed to whenever here, when we're looking at the non-correct gainer, is that when we have that excessive knee bend in our gainer, we're putting a lot of emphasis on our quads. Now, your quads are divided into 3 different muscles. Your vastus medialis, which is the muscle that runs in here, your rectus femoris, which is the main one that runs right here in the middle, and your vastus lateralis, which runs here off and to the side. So for this view, we're looking straight on. This is your anterior view, looking at your knee. Your knee is right here, and they all connect. This is all the connective tissue that connects to your knee, and then right here underneath it, as many of you are well known and well associated with this poor ligament, your ACL, right? So this ligament, boom, that connects right here, that connects into your knee. And so now it's kind of confusing because it's like, hey, this muscle's much bigger than this one. So why wouldn't we want to try and use our quads a little bit more than this tiny thing back here? Well, when we look at the functions for what your calves are supposed to do as opposed to your quads, your calves are literally made, they're like springs, they're built-in springs inside your body. They absorb impact and they push. That's what they're supposed to do. Your, how fast is ladder? Your quads are used more for absorbing impact and being able to push like forwards or backwards, or help you squat and sit down. And the number one reason is that tricking is not a game of strength. It is a game of momentum and blocking, much like gymnastics. So the angle that you take is not going to be very beneficial for you when you have this excessive knee bend. Because whenever you go into your block, whether it's from Eurostep or it's from any kind of thing, especially it's from Eurostep, you're trying to take all that momentum that you've gained from your steps and try and go up and have that slight angle. If you take all that momentum and you push all this unnecessary stress in your knee and put all this unnecessary force to try and block off into your quads, and you're not using your calves and your gastrocs and your soleus so much, you're just going to end up going, it's just going to end up shooting you into the ground that way. As opposed to, if we can have this nice block, we're using all the tension that we've generated, all the momentum, and we can actually kind of push ourselves up and around, and then we can land that gainer. So when we talk about the synergists for our gainer, we're going to be looking specifically at our spine, because we want to have that nice, when we land, especially for our eagle, we want to have that nice, strong and tight back. We don't want to be hunched over, and we don't want everything to be curled in on ourselves. We want to have that nice big eagle, big chest and everything, and that comes not from our abdominals, not here from the front, it comes from here in our back. So we're going to be looking at three main muscles that are known as the erector spinae that I think would be the most synergistic. You have tons of other tinier muscles intricately all interwoven into your spine and in your ribs, but your erector spinae are the ones that help you stay uptight whenever, or stay upright whenever you are walking or doing anything like that. Same thing with your multifidus. The multifidus is actually like more tinier muscles, so each little line, this is not anatomically correct, I don't know how many actual tiny multifidi there are, but each line is a multifidi that it connects into your spine that helps to stabilize it. And whenever you're rotating off to the side, there's also the muscles that are pulling your left side, my left side down, and stretching on my right side. So these are going to be your synergists, and or arguably they could also be agonists. But these are going to be the muscles that help you stay upright whenever you are in the middle of your gainer and cork, and whenever you're trying to land in that nice big eagle. So for our antagonists, so we're going to be muscles that are kind of almost working against our synergists and our agonists. So it's all going to be here in our abdominals. So we have kind of like three layers in our abs. We have this first layer, which is our external obliques. So this muscle right here that's on the very outside, and this is all fascia that is holding you together. That's keeping everything in here nice and tight so that we don't rip apart. Our second layer is going to be now our rectus abdominis and our internal obliques. And our final and third layer underneath all that is going to be here in our transverse abdominis, that wraps almost kind of around us a little bit, much like our obliques, but it kind of wraps on the inside and is attached towards the back of our spine. Now, what all these muscles do, typically, whenever we are flexing and contracting, they kind of help us give that hollow body shape. But it also kind of leads us to having this slunched or hunched over position if we keep it down too much like that. And it's the same thing that whenever we are doing our gainers, we don't really want to be here and crunched up. We only just want to be flexing and contracting them isometrically to help us stay nice and tight and up, and help actually with those synergists, which I guess actually kind of just probably makes them more synergists rather than agonists. But we want to squeeze them isometrically and not hunch and push everything down and fight against our erector spinae and our multifidi and all those muscles that are here associated in our back, so we can try and stand up and keep everything nice and tight, whether we're doing a gainer and or a cork. What did we learn today for our gainer muscles on Muscle Monday? We learned that the gastrocnemius and the soleus on your takeoff foot are going to be your main agonists. And for that leg that's swinging up and through are going to be your hip flexors on the opposite leg, which I neglected to mention, so my bad. Now, for our antagonists, there's going to be basically all the muscles right here in our normal rectus abdominis, our obliques, and the muscle that's even deeper inside the transverse abdominis that kind of just sweeps across. It's not the obliques, but it also sweeps across, right? So rectus abdominis, obliques, transverse abdominis. Synergists are going to be all the muscles here in our back. Just about almost every muscle could probably be considered a synergist for the gainer when we're trying to come up and out. But the main ones that I want to talk about were the ones your erector spinae, the three muscles that run up in here, and your multifidus or your multifidi, the tiny muscles that insert right here into your spine that go all the way up, that help you with either bending or just keep you stable for walking and whenever you cough or sneeze or anything like that. So the exercises will probably be done in part 2. Things that you can do to strengthen your muscles, the muscles associated with your gainers, and part 2. So don't know when that will be, but it'll probably be soon. My name is David Rodriguez. Stop tricking a fancy new shirt that I got. Hope y'all have a great day, and I will see y'all soon. See you tomorrow. Peace.